Yo, what up, what up? What's up, family? What's up, everybody? Cowboys Nation. Y'all know what it is. Anthony Fallon, Tone Setter Sports channel. We're going to talk about these Cowboys. I got a few things, a couple of things I want to talk about. There's no need for us to talk about the contract disputes. We already covered that. I mean, just a general basis, in my opinion, as this channel is, based upon facts, things that transpired in recent years, or, currently. So right now, I'm sitting there downtown Atlanta. I don't know if y'all can hear me because it got traffic all over the place, people walking, stuff like that. It's like everybody's getting off work and stuff, so yeah. But anyway, like I was saying, let's talk about Cowboy Nation, man. So I'm basing this off of, I am going to base it off of all the talks of, the whole contract disputes. It's particularly they really trying to spin this whole Ezekiel Elliott contract that's with the holdout whatnot. Excuse me. But I got another fire truck coming through, or police coming through. Hold on for a second. It's gonna get loud for a second, guys. Yeah, okay, they finally cut it off. Cut off the sirens. So what I'm saying though, and I'm coming off of, I think it was yesterday, I was watching Undisputed or First Take, First Things First, one of the two, yesterday. And so, these are the things that I have to say. Okay, is Zeke the best player on the team? Absolutely. Then it's like Amari Cooper, maybe. I mean, you can argue who's the best. You know what I'm saying? And they go on with Zeke, because he's the best player on the team. He carries the load. Did the Cowboys set themselves up for this? Yes, they did, because how they wanted to structure. They wanted to do a rendition of the big three. Just like Aikman, Smith, and Irvin. And so we got our Aikman, Smith, and Irvin in this modern time, at this very particular time now. So, and we thinking that this can produce a Super Bowl, or at least a chance to get to the Super Bowl. So yeah, I'm with all of that, and I think that this team is definitely trending upward, as I said in my previous video. So, but let's get to the point. And so they was talking about, he's the workload, with all the carries, and I see it from Zeke's side. He has a very short shelf because he's a running back. He takes a lot of hits, So, yeah. So he takes, yes, he is the workload. He is the workhorse. He is the bell cow. That's what running backs do. That's what you signed up for when you are a running back, is to carry the load. And rushing titles don't win you the Super Bowl. None of that does. That's a glorified stat. You know what I'm saying? That's just like, make you the best running back in the league. But that has not produced us any victories like in the playoffs. I mean, because we can go back to last year. See, one thing that Mark Schlereth made a point when he was talking about the New England Patriots is, all those yards that Zeke was leading, that, being a two-time leading rusher and all that stuff, it's really just for him, saying that he's outperformed his contract. I believe all of that, absolutely, because he should get paid. Is it the right timing? The timing doesn't seem right, but I understand it too. Absolutely. Because somebody is going to have to sacrifice for the team. or multiple people is going to have to sacrifice for the team to keep the team together as it is right now, so they can build upon, making it back into the playoffs. First win in the division, making it to the playoffs with home field advantage, and then, making it to the NFC Championship, and with the game on the line to make it into the Super Bowl. So, absolutely. With all of those carries and everything, that still doesn't guarantee that he's going to be the one to take us to the Super Bowl. Because the best player does not mean that you are the leader. And you are the leader. And I'm speaking from facts. Because even when I was on our basketball team, back in the mid 90s, 96 to be exact, when we won our championship, state championship, our best player was not our leader. I was the leader. I was one of them anyway. Where the coaches would defer to me and what I see on the court, because I was running point. I was running point. I played multiple positions, but I just had an innate ability to be able to understand what was going on. And I'm not knocking that my boy, for being the best player, but he was a ball hog, and I had to tell him. I had to be the one to tell him, like, man, you got to pass the ball, Sorry about that. And if halftime, when halftime came up, the coaches were like, they'll have me to speak or say what needs to be said. Or I would just like critique one of the other starters or whoever's playing, and like, hey, like my boy Trophy. I used to tell him he was our point. It was our power forward. You know what I'm saying? And I used to have to tell him, like, you got to get off the blocks, man. You're playing too low on the block against a bigger guy. So come up off the block a little bit, face up, or just come off the block and use your speed and quickness against him. To your advantage, his speed and quickness to his advantage. Just trying to play with your back to the basket against all that height and weight just wasn't going to cut it. It wasn't cutting it because he was having a suck-ass game, and getting in foul trouble and all that bullshit. But that's just an example. Another example is that Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders was an elite running back, Hall of Famer running back. Had a lot of yards. Matter of fact, could have easily broke Walter Payton's record if he had still played without retiring early, still in his prime. But where did that get him? I think they made it to the playoffs once. Why? Because he didn't have a quarterback. He didn't have a quarterback that was sufficient enough to lead or play well enough. They had everything else. Back then, they had an okay defense. A couple times they had okay receivers, but they didn't have that lead, that X factor, that quarterback to get them over the hump when they needed to. So let's now. I kind of went way this way, so let's talk about what Mark Schlereth was saying. Can we run the ball when we need to run the ball? When the ball needs to be ran. It's like what's coming, but you can't stop it. The Patriots did that in plenty of games. It's like the game was a shootout, but they had the lead from mid going into the late fourth quarter, and they took a fullback, bro, and ran it down your damn throat. There's nothing you can do about it. That's when Zeke is the most important player. And can we get them home run hitters, those big plays out of him? Yeah, at times, but I haven't seen it since his rookie year. So don't give me all of that, because that's what a workhorse does. He has to be utilized in both the running and passing game, because it opens up the offense quite often. And so people saying Dak the team would win without Zeke. That's bullshit. Because when I'm gonna get back to that, because that's gonna lead into my next topic that I want to talk about. That's gonna segue into this. So you gotta look at things from both sides, and we have to be careful of how we're gonna divvy up this money around to all the players, because it's not just Dak, Zeke, and Amari. We still got Byron and Jalen. We still got a couple. We got to figure out who are our core guys, because I definitely think we have to keep Jalen. You know what I'm saying? I would like to keep Byron too, but somebody's gonna have to take a lesser contract. If we can't let the big three or the triplets, take up all the salary cap, because we're not going to be able to keep everybody. And this is why I'm bringing this in, because I know we're trying to get to where we need to be right now. This season is to go deeper into the playoffs. Because when we played the Rams, the game was close. But when we needed that fourth down from the best player on the team, did we get it? No, we did not. And we still had the game in our hands because of Dak Prescott, because of the defense. And the defense was still getting gashed. The defense is still getting gashed regardless. But Prescott, no, it wasn't astounding numbers where he wowed you and stuff like that. Well, at least it looked like that. I don't have his stats in that game in front of me. But how did that game stay close? How did that game stay within reach of winning? We gambled a lot. It was, like I said, it was one of those old Madden, the early Madden games where you get the cards where you had to go for it on fourth down and stuff, because both teams did that a lot. That's why it seemed like it was a on the conspiracy side of things when it comes to that. It was just like a little too much and too obvious for me. But nevertheless, the game we lost. So I say that to say this. What if we did have to lose Zeke? I don't want to, but we just might, because his price might be too high, since he's the leading rusher, since he's the vocal point of the offense, and Dak is supposed to be so trash but he's the leader of the team. He commands the huddle. He's the one that he's the factor. His intangibles is the one that, and his calm demeanor is what keeps the team level-headed and focused when we're facing adversity, or when we're trying to get back in the game, and whatnot, or trying to finish a game. You know what I'm saying? Because Zeke can be a finisher too, as well, when they utilize him right, and when we need to run the ball. There's a difference of just running the ball and getting a bunch of yardage. So yeah, that's the difference. Oh my gosh, you should see this ass outside. Anyway. Yeah, you know how Atlanta is, y'all. Georgia Peaches all day. But anyway. So what I'm saying is this. Talking about the organization of the Dallas Cowboys, period. I'd rather for them to build a dynasty where if we do lose somebody, we have the next man up that's been groomed and has been working on their craft at their position, and already showing the improvement on the field, the level and their level of play on the field when they had the opportunity to get in the game. So, like, let's just say Byron Jones, for instance. Say if we can't sign him because his price is too high, or we just can't afford it because it's gonna hit against the hard cap. We got Jordan Lewis, we got Michael Jackson, got some guys that are still. Well, Jordan Lewis is the most seasoned. You know what I'm saying? Out of that, the second and third string, but we're bringing some guys along that can fill in. You know what I'm saying? That can fill in, and we drafted them because we think that we could turn these guys into excellent pros, solid players that maybe they're not going to wow you with how they play, but they play smart, sound football, and have the capability of making plays from time to time, But for the most part, they stick to their assignments. That's a solid player. So, just using that, absolutely. So, what would you rather have? Because we're not going to be able to keep all of these guys, especially if majority of them going to the Pro Bowl and stuff like that. Become an all-pro player at their position. Think about that. When was the last time we had 13 Pro Bowlers? We had DeMarcus Ware and everybody. But what happened to that team? Did it produce anything? No, it did not. Because our leader started breaking down physically. That was Tony Romo. So that all of that doesn't mean anything. And we had an elite running back because look, we had DeMarcus Ware. DeMarcus. Gosh, I can't even think of his name now. But you know who we had before Zeke. So they ran him to death, and he got his money at Tennessee. And we could have kept him because the year after, the line got better after that, because that line was fairly still young and they were still, progressive, showing improvement year after year. So, yeah. So that leading rusher don't mean shit in my eyes when it comes to the organization as the whole team standpoint of things. Grand scheme of things or whatnot. When we talking about that's only for his self-validation to prove that he's worthy of getting a big contract, and he's only going to get maybe 2 of those, and he's trying to capitalize on it right now. You know what I'm saying? Which you can, but like I said, So yeah, I would rather for them to build and they're in the long-term mode. That's what people are not understanding. They're thinking long-term. That is by going in the draft, coaching these guys up, because they understand that they will not be able to handle big contracts to everybody, and they don't want to get tied up in these long-term contracts with one player that once he gets the long-term contract and all of a sudden his stats start going downhill from that point on. And that's the thing with Dak. That's the thing with Zeke, because of the possibility of him getting hurt, and Amari Cooper as well. It's to find that middle ground where the organization can compensate these guys but also be able to sustain the salary cap going forward. So those guys, the front office is in a very tough situation.
Oh, no worries. I'll get it back to you soon.
So yeah, that's the only difference, man. That's the difference. You gotta look at it from a front office perspective, not a fan perspective. And I want us to keep these guys at least for another year. Maybe they just give Zeke an extension, maybe a year or 2 extension, and then they have to come back to it, because they don't have to do shit right now in renegotiating his contract. But do they want him on the field? Absolutely, because he is a difference maker. Is he the most explosive running back that out there? No, he's not. No, he's not. You know, but nevertheless, he's a great talent. You know, because Emmitt Smith wasn't the most athletic running back, but he was a great talent behind a great talented offensive line that had a quarterback that can lead with a wide receiver. Actually, 3 wide receivers, including Jay Novacek. You know what I'm saying? Alvin Harper, Michael Irvin, guys that can stretch the field. You know what I'm saying? That can open the game up for them. You know, so they wouldn't stack the box against Emmitt. So that's the only thing. And so that's what we're faced with today, as we currently speak. So I had something else on my mind too, because Skip had said something. Was it this morning? I think it was this morning, or it might have been yesterday. But anyway, it slips my mind, so I'm not even going to talk on it. But yeah. So that's it, y'all. I mean, I give y'all 20 minutes of my thoughts, my opinion on this whole thing. As far as dynasty goes, what would y'all tell me? What would y'all rather do? Do y'all want the dynasty for years to come, or do y'all want the short term? It's keeping these guys together, and having them tied up long term until they drastically decline. Oh, I'm glad I kept talking. Because think about what Dez Bryant. Think about it with Dez Bryant. We can go back. We can keep going back for real. And that's the point that Skip was making. It's like the year that Dez Bryant led the NFL in receiving touchdowns. The Green Bay non-catch. The Green Bay catch that was called as a non-catch, and that was his breakout. That was his best year. And Jerry Jones paid him, and then after that, he never returned to that status. Never returned to that status. Go back to Marion Barber. He had that good year, violent runner. You know what I'm saying? Caught everybody off guard, but the following year, after that year, he got paid, and he never returned to his status. Never returned to the status. Why? Because the offensive line was damn old. It was old. So we just got to have a balance. So we got to have a balance on the budget as well. That's basically what it is, because the organization always got to be thinking steps ahead, looking forward down the road, and how they're trying to structure everything by keeping players, by staying relevant, staying into the playoffs with the potential of getting to the Super Bowl. Absolutely. So, what are we going to do? But at the end of this, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and I'd like to hear some of your thoughts. Do we want the dynasty? Peace. This is Tone Setter Sports Channel. I'm out.